When the project was abandoned, the first thing that happened was that the baseboards that had been constructed were scrapped and the track recycled. We basically used gauge 1 rail and cast metal chairs, so they've just gone back in the tin. And the baseboards themselves were actually taking up most of the room anyway. The structures were obviously put away into storage, but in this bit we're going to look at Askam Co-op, which is a low relief model of the building that's still there, the Goodshed, and also the signal box. And also we're going to have a look at the model of Furness number 20, the world's oldest 040 tender engine that's still surviving in real life, and how we set about modelling that. Now the signal box was about the only bit I actually got anywhere near completed. Like the station, this is actually designed to sit into a recess in wherever we're going to plant it, so that the lock-in rooms are to much lower level. So originally the baseboards we had steps going down to this, and then obviously the steps at the end. This is constructed from slightly lighter MDF. It didn't need to be anywhere near as massive as the main station building, but again used scribe das to represent the red sandstone blockwork. Inside, the model of the signal box is actually fully detailed, complete with the correct lever frames, block instruments, open fireplace, and accurately reflects the condition of the signal box as it was back in the sort of mid-80s. The least completed part of the project was the Goodshed. Now the original Askam Goodshed was demolished quite a few years ago. There's a modern industrial estate stood there now. But the nice thing about the Furness Railway is that they built virtually a standardised Goodshed at every location. So the dimensions and the details for this one were actually taken from the surviving one at Drigg, further north. And again, it's the usual construction of MDF with DAS cladding, again using the cast resin corner blocks to define the windows and the edges, basically so that you've got your nice dressed stone for them bits. But this is the one that's actually survived the least well in storage for all these years. The roof's coming a bit loose, and we got quite a long way on with putting most of the roof slates on this one, but they've all come dislodged. The back of this one isn't actually clad at all because it was never intended to be visible to the public. So only the 3 sides visible to the public have actually got the stone cladding done. From this you can start to get an idea just how big a scale this is. This is a relatively small Goodshed, and I mean in gauge 3 it comes out quite massive. Again, we've used fairly substantial timbers for the roofs and that. But this is one of the things that ultimately meant the project was doomed, because the layout itself was probably going to be 5 foot wide and probably about 40 foot long before it was finished. Virtually impossible it was going to be to take to shows. However, for a fixed layout or a garden layout, it's ideal. I mean, the thing's quite substantial, quite robust, and it's actually going to look in scale with its surroundings. Now the plan in exhibition form was that we were going to have a full-length backdrop at the back, basically representing Askam village itself, and the principal part of this was going to be Askam and Isleth Co-op, which still survives today, but retro back to how we imagine it was when it was all individual shops. And this is ultra low relief, it's only 2-inch deep front to back, and we got an original land registry map showing who was in the village, who was occupying each building, so that we could reasonably put together a fair idea of the actual layout. We've got some pictures that sort of support it, but a lot of it's been detective work anyway. This is more conventional construction anyway, but this has actually suffered quite badly in storage. It'll all clean up obviously, but it's going to need a bit of work. We started putting individual curtains in the all the bedroom windows, and started to work out what we're actually going to do for window dressing in the actual shop windows themselves. The project started to get into difficulties when we moved up to the Lake District. Having previously had the water tower building at Barrow Hill to basically set this thing up and build it, I found myself with not enough space to even begin to do a project of this size. Some of the stock was disposed of fairly early, but the buildings remained in store upstairs for a considerable period of time. Although the completed Gauge 3 stock actually got sold, this kept retained. This is a model of Furness Railway number 20, the world's oldest 040 tender engine. It's constructed primarily out of brass and nickel silver, with cast iron driving and tender wheels. The Furness Railway is quite obscure, as is Gauge 3. So to make the wagons and rolling stock, I ended up making patterns for myself and having them cast in white metal for the things that you're going to use most, like springs, axle boxes and buffer bodies. So there you have it. I think what we're looking for now is basically just who wants to take the mantle of preserving the actual model and giving it a new life again. Certainly too good to break up, and see if we can find a museum or somebody with an ambitious garden layout who's got somewhere to put this monster of a building.